Hello, 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 hello. It's episode number 181 of This Week in WordPress. That makes us about, what is that? It's like 3 years old or something. That's a bit bonkers. And I'm joined, well, first of all, I should say there is no Paul Lacey. Oh, the tear comes out of his eye as he weeps. Betrayal is what I kept saying last week. I had a hashtag which I kept putting on the screen, Paul Lacey betrayal. No, as you may know if you listen to this regularly, he's decided he's going to take a break from the show. He's going to come on periodically, and maybe that'll be every number of weeks. But he's got other things that he needs to get along with. So, Paul, if you're listening, I'll never forgive you.
He's not listening.
It's the sense of humour that we share. It's quite nice. He takes it in good measure. But we will be joined by a different collection of guests this week. And first of all, I'd like to introduce all three of the panelists today. We've got Rob Cairns, and we've got Michelle Frechette, and we've got Birgit Pauli-Haack. Now, I do have some biographies here. I don't know if they're kind of up to date, but I'm going to do the ones that I've got. And Michelle kindly stepped in at the last minute, so I'm going to get Michelle to do her own. But I'll do Rob's. Rob is the chief creator of amazing ideas at stunning digital marketing, and the creator of the SDM podcast, which we will actually be featuring a little bit later because we've got some podcast news from the WordPress space. So, how are you doing, Rob? How are you?
I'm doing great, Nathan. Thanks for having me.
You are more than welcome. Where are you coming from today, Rob?
From the center of the universe, as I call it, Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
That's great. From a different center of the universe, we've got Birgit. And Birgit joins us today. She can tell us where in a moment. And I'm just going to read her biography. It says, Birgit is a WordPress developer advocate sponsored by Automattic. Congratulations on the new job. She is the curator at Gutenberg Times and the co-host of Gutenberg Changelog podcast, together with Greg. And I'm not even going to try Greg's name. You can, if you like. Before working for Automattic, Birgit ran her agency for 19 years and built websites and online solutions for small business, non-profit organizations and artists. So I think this is the first time we've had you on the show since your nice new shiny job. So congratulations. Well done.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm totally excited about that new job. And so grateful to Automattic that they offered me the job. And it was really doing what I did for the last 4 years, like with the Gutenberg Times and the shows, to do it now for paid. So that's, and do more, of course, going into the deep end of Gutenberg with the developers. So.
You know what? Isn't that just the loveliest of stories? You know, you just do something because you like it for a really long period of time. And then suddenly the people that you're doing it about suddenly turn around and say, actually, do you want to just carry on doing the exact same thing, but we'll pay you for it now? That's great.
Well, it turned out I only had to ask because they had these positions online for developer advocates. And I said, well, that might fit the bill. So I put in an application and it went all good from there.
Oh, I'm really pleased for you. It's amazing. So that's Birgit. Where are you, Birgit?
I'm in the other center of the universe, Florida. It's not a good thing, but I'm in Sarasota, Florida. Yes.
Well, I appreciate both of you, and of course Michelle, for getting up at probably what is, you should also be still in bed, I suspect. But the third one in the trifecta is Michelle Frechette. I don't have your biography written down for reasons I'll explain in a moment. But do you want to just tell us who you are? I'm sure many of us know your face already.
Almost 4 years, I've been the head of customer success at GiveWP. I am also the board president at Big Orange Heart. I have a podcast called WP Coffee Talk, another one called Underrepresented in Tech. I'm also a contributor for Post Status and will be filling in for Corey most of the time on the Get Hired podcast going forward after the first 5 episodes have aired. And, and every once in a while I show my face here.
You never stop, Michelle. It's really remarkable, incredible amount that you put out. I just want to dwell on Michelle for a moment. I'm sorry, Rob, and I'm sorry, Birgit, because we've got a few little bits and pieces to share, haven't we, Michelle? We haven't
I'm scared.
yeah, okay. We haven't kind of finalised any details yet, but when Paul stepped down, betrayal. We
that your question just says that, right?
I just really should stop. Just stop with that line of humour. It's not funny, is it?
Every time you say betrayal, I'm going to say opportunity.
That's right. Yeah. Anyway, because Paul's not here anymore, I kind of was racking my head, scratching around a bit, and thinking, I wonder what I should do with that. Should I just do the show myself and carry on in that manner, or would it be good to have another co-host or something like that? And then the thought kind of occurred to me that it might be kind of nice to have like a round robin of regular co-hosts. So every, I don't know, the numbers haven't been finalized yet, but every, let's say 4, 6, 8, whatever number of weeks, we ask the same people to keep coming back. Because I think one of the nice things that I had with Paul was we built up a rapport over time. And, you know, obviously I can use the word betrayal and he's hopefully going to laugh at it because we know each other really well. And I think that kind of thing is important. Not that I call people a betrayer and they cope with it, but that you just have that nice rapport. And Michelle's been on the show loads of times. We've worked together a lot of times before in a lot of different capacities. So I reached out to Michelle and I said, do you fancy doing that? And she was kind enough to say, no chance, get lost. No, she was kind enough not only to say, yes, I would really like to do that, but also, how about I go out and find some like-minded people? I think it's fair to say, Michelle, we haven't quite nailed that list down as yet, but that's the plan, right?
But we're in conversations with quite a few people right now. We have some meetings this week with people to kind of finalize what that would look like for them, to give them some opportunities to make decisions. And if anybody knows me, you know that I've tried to put as much diversity into that group as possible too, so that we get different experiences, different backgrounds, and different perspectives on the show. Yeah,
and it has to be said, you are considerably better at that side of things than I am. So I really appreciate it.
I expect my face further up on the little trio or the sidebar forward,
hang on. I believe we can do that. Look at that.
How did that happen?
That's a new feature. That wasn't possible before. So Celebrity Squares, we can play around with those. The Celebrity Squares was a game show in the UK where they did exactly that. I've had a lovely couple of comments. First of all, just a few coming in. Hello, says Chris from the UK. Maya from GoDaddy saying hello as well. Afternoon, says Jordan. Hi there, Jordan. Congratulations. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, definitely not in the US. It's stupid o'clock there. Congratulations, Birgit. I don't know if you know Peter. I'm sure you do. But if you don't, he's here most weeks. That's really nice. Marcus says, what does Marcus say? Hi, everyone, and congrats, Birgit. Oh, Birgit getting the love this week. That's nice.
Hey, real quick question for Marcus. Marcus, if you're listening, I'm looking for the link that you have put out with all the timestamps for WordCamp US. If you could put that in the chat, that would be lovely for us. Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you. And there's a little bit of an ongoing joke in that every week Cameron shows up and writes a really long comment, and if you post that comment, it sort of covers up the person at the bottom's face, and so
he does it on purpose.
And so Cameron's saying, whose face do we get to cover up now? Actually, it's Cameron, and also, oh my goodness, who is the other one that does it? There's somebody else who comes in each week and bombs us with a massive comment just for the sake of just for the sake of covering people up. Few bits of housekeeping just before we begin, if that's all right. If you would like to not be anonymous, if you're in the Facebook group and you don't want to be anonymous, please go to chat.restream.io/FB. That's on the screen. And it will then give you an option. You can decline or you can accept, and then Facebook will send forward your avatar and name. Otherwise, you just come across as anonymous Facebook user. If you got any thoughts or questions, I do try to drop a few of them into the show as we go along, but I can't promise that I'll get to all of them, but I do try. And what's the other one to mention? No, nothing really. I think that's probably it. So if it's all right with you three, we'll crack on with the show. I'll raise my screen, make the screen come up. There we go. This is our website, WP Builds. I've lost it on my monitor. There it is. We drop content each week. Thursday is the regular podcast episode, which is this week U for Undo. David Wormsley and I have been going through the A to Z or A to Z, depending on where you live. And we've got to the letter U, and now we've got loads of episodes to do with really difficult letters. So I don't know what we're going to do with that, but we're racing through nearly at the end of the alphabet, and then we've got some new ideas. Yeah, I know. And then what else do we do over here? We do a subscription thing. If you want to sign up, I don't mean a subscription thing. It's you subscribe to our email and we'll send you information about when we produce content each and every week. But that's about it. I would like to probably just quickly mention that there is an event happening. It's on the 18th of October this year, running right through to the 22nd of October. It's called the Page Builder Summit. It's what the... wrong arm. That's so basic. It's that one. There's the finger. It is running 18th to the 22nd of October this year. And look, we've got some lovely speakers. Get past that ugly chap. And look, one of them, oh, look at that. Somebody there, look, there's Birgit. And oh, look at that, there's Michelle. We've got a load of people talking this week. I'm running through the content as on dovetailing this podcast episode in with all of that. And it's looking really good. It should be really good. But if you want to be a part of it, it's totally free. If you want to show up and watch the sessions, you can watch them for the 24 hours after they're aired. And then there's an upsell if you want to keep that content. Click on this button, sign up, and you're done. pagebuildersummit.com if you want to know more about that. Right, enough of me blathering on with adverts and things. Let's get on to the main stuff. I think, Birgit, you're going to feature fairly heavily in the first few articles because you are our resident block editor Gutenberg expert. I'll quickly introduce this one and then drop it in for anybody that's interested to talk about it. This is on WP Tavern, Justin Tadlock once again, producing a piece of great content. It's called Gutenberg 11.6. Improves the global styles UI, adds child theme support, and whilst at the beginning he sort of says it's a fairly pedestrian release, shall we say? You know, there's not a lot of high drama items. He does say it's quite nice for a release once in a while to just be without fanfare and just hunkering down and making things work very well. Then he goes on to talk about the global styles UI and the fact that in the future you'll be able to have these nice representations of how everything will look on the back end. If you're looking at the screen, you'll be able to see that there's some sort of typography setting where you'll be able to see what the background will look like, what the font will look like, and so on. So that's quite nice. There we go, see it in action. And the other item, well, do you know what? I'm going to hand it over to Birgit at that point and just ask her what she makes of the whole release 11.6, particularly around the global styles update.
Yeah, it gives us a short preview on or the first iterations of the global styles interface. What is the global styles interface? Well, in 5.8, WordPress 5.8, we had the theme JSON file kind of be introduced, which is a configuration file for developers, theme developers, to configure and put some settings into one file instead of have it distributed all over the functions PHP file, and to introduce the custom colors, make sure that custom colors are custom color palette, brand palette, so to speak, but switch off the custom color, set the font size, set the font style, set some margins around some, a lot of settings that were done scattered around the functions PHP are now in one. And that was the first step. The second step is now with this one, where a user who has the permissions can change those settings. For instance, the color palette, if they wanted to, or the backgrounds and all that for a full site. And it's something that will be, it's aimed to come into WordPress 5.9. So we need having it in the plugin gives more users to test it and see how it's going to work. And of course, Justin Tadlock's input is always very valuable and will be definitely read by the team. So that's a custom styles part. The other part is that if you have, so the theme, block-based theme is just about usable now, with about 17 themes that do this in the repository. But what do you do when you want to change a few things? And the WordPress way is to have a child theme. And now the block theme also supports child themes in basic things. I have not tried it out yet, but you can overrule the parent theme settings or styles or patterns if you wanted to, and without being left out for updates of the parent theme, as it was the WordPress way. The team just catched us up on that feature. Yeah.
It looks like a really nice step in the right direction of basically uncovering this for everybody and having it stored in just the one place. So if you save something on the front end, it's saved to the themes.json file, and then that's it. And the developers of themes can utilize that. And then no matter where you take it and what you save, it's global and it just works all over the website. It's really nice. I quite like this implementation with a just real simple. It says the letter A in capitals and it says the letter A in small case. And then there's this little icon next to it, a little circle, which gives some sort of indication of what other colors might be in use. Mm-hmm. Looks really nice, I've got to say. Looks really nice. Any thoughts on that, either Michelle or Rob?
No, I think it's a step in the right direction. Many people know I'm in the process of moving my website from a page builder to Gutenberg, and I've been working on this for a while. And I think this will make some of the styling a little easier. So I haven't played with it much, but it's on my radar. So I think the WordPress team is moving us where we need to go, personally.
Yeah. Michelle.
Yeah, I think it looks great. Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. I love all the changes. It's just a matter of finding the time to play with them so that I can become more familiar.
Right. I think that's a really important point. It's probably out of bounds for most people to allocate the time to fiddle with this kind of stuff. So seeing Justin putting together these articles every so often, and also obviously the stuff that Birgit's producing and various other people are producing, is really helpful. But it's not something that you're going to be playing with in the next few days unless you deliberately go out and play with it. Birgit, with your sort of automatic hat on, what's the best way for people if they want to make their voice heard about these changes? What's the best place to make their voice listened to?
Oh, there is a full site editing outreach program in the WordPress Slack. FSE-outreach-program is the channel. And there's some discussions about how when you start testing things, what you find. But of course, the best way to reach the Gutenberg team is the WordPress Slack in the core-editor channel, post things there. Another, it depends on what the issues is. It would be a good place to get it in front of all developers that are not in the channel when you post it, is to write an issue on the GitHub repository. It's actually fairly easy to do, even if you're not a developer, to get an account on GitHub, and then the issue, just either a feature request or a bug or quirk. I also call them annoyances that you find. Put them in the GitHub repository and walk through them, because that's where it's all together, where the product managers look, the developers look, the designers, they're all in that GitHub repository, and where their work is actually updated. Yeah.
Another quick one to mention is just find Anne McCarthy on any social channel that she's visible on. Or of course Birgit,
you can certainly develop. Send me a DM on Twitter at BPH, or send me an email to pauli@gutenbergtimes.com.
Thank you. Yeah, Rob, I'm curious. Why did you? What forced your hand? What was the moment at which you said, "Actually, you know what? I'm going to start using the block editor instead of what I've been using thus far"?
Well, I've been contemplating it for a long time, for speed reasons, for trying to keep up with the times for client reasons. And for 2 years, I've put it off and I've put it off. And then I sat in on a webinar that Spencer Foreman did about a couple months ago. And he threw this neat little utility out there called Editor Plus, which is adds editor styling. The minute I found Editor Plus, that was the end of it. And now my biggest problem is I've got over 140 blog posts, unfortunately not in the classic editor, in my page builder. So I'm in the process of converting that mess over. Then I'm going to move the site to a staging site. I'm almost through that phase. And then I'll start working on the content. And I've actually used it. It's worth mentioning as a time to do a content audit and get rid of old content and put in things like 301 redirects when need be and stuff like that. So my tip to anybody is don't just move your site. Do a content audit at the same time and see what's relevant and what's not relevant too.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a good point. I built a couple of sites over the last couple of weeks just out of curiosity with with the block editor, just see where I was at. Man, it's fast. At the end, the output on the end was just, I use Speed Vitals. I don't know if it's .com or .io, but I was very happy with the output. I was using Generate blocks just for the container block as much as anything else. And it was really great. It was a good experience. Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you, Rob. Right, let's move on. Next piece is also on WP Tavern. We often feature WP Tavern, a little bit less so than this week than is often the case, but there's a piece by Sarah Gooding. And the long and the short of it is that there's a new API for locking blocks, which I just think is a really nice addition. If you're looking at the screen, you can, if you're watching us live, you'll be able to see what the UI for that actually, what the proposed UI for that actually looks like. And basically, it boils down to 3 states. There's the unlocked state where you can move anything, anywhere, it's up for grabs. Anybody can grab it and push it wherever they want on the piece of content. There's a locked state, which looks like a padlock. There's a little icon which enables you to just clearly see that somebody at some point, possibly you, locked this and they would like it to remain there. But if you want to unlock it, you can, and then move it about and lock it up again. And then finally, there's the sort of system state, which I think most developers would be most interested in, the state whereby you can say, hands off, you're not being able to move this at all. This is just completely locked, and you don't even get the option to move it. The little 6 dot icon, which we're all familiar with in Gutenberg, which then enables you to drag things around, that's gone. It just doesn't exist. And so I can well imagine, but I don't know what the permissions model around this is going to look like exactly, but I can well imagine that anybody building a website at some point, if they've been using a page builder, that fine granularity never existed. You don't want the clients touching this bit, but this bit's fine. You're allowed to touch that bit because that's accessible. But we spent ages getting this bit right. Leave it alone. And so I just think this is a really nice development. We're obviously still at the development stage, as the article says. It's a new API, Gutenberg 11.6, as we've just been discussing. I'm going to go to Birgit again first. If you've got any thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think that should relieve a lot of fear from theme developers and site builders, because up until now, there were not really not a whole lot of mechanisms there to lock down the theme or content in the block editor, apart from uploading images, which only editors could do, but not contributors and all that. Following the model of permissions, like administrator, editor, author, and contributor is probably the first step for that, to make sure that those things are either manageable through or just not at all, because the theme locked it down. So I think that alleviates a lot of fear and helps site builders to actually accommodate clients' wishes, to not have editors mess about the design that they paid so much money for it, and just to stay with the content that they are allowed to do. So I really like that, and it's good to be that early in the stage it hopefully goes also in WordPress 5.9 when the global styles comes in, because those two go hand in hand.
I'd be curious to see what the permission was, especially in terms of like nested blocks. So, for example, could I pick a parent block and just click the lock, and then everything that's nested beneath it becomes locked? Or indeed, could I, then go into those child blocks and say, no, actually, that one's all right. So, for example, I might have a cover block, and I don't want the background image to be replaceable, but I do want the text to be replaceable. And obviously, that's a component of the block itself. You know what I mean? Just sort of different granular controls. Interested to see how that goes. But I can see this being useful. Rob, let's go to you. If you're building client websites, giving permission or not, as the case may be.
I love this idea because it means I can lock clients out of moving stuff around, and I can't tell you how many calls I get. Oh, well, I moved this around and now it's your problem, so try and fix it. And everybody's laughing here because we all know this drill, right? And it's like somehow it's never the client's error. It's always the developer designer's error.
Yeah.
So this will solve headaches past belief. And I'm curious to see what the implementation is too from what you were talking about, Nathan. But it's a step in the right direction.
That was quite an interesting use case, Nathan. Thank you. Yeah, I can think about that. Yeah, because we are now also creating some test instructions to kind of see how that all works for the team.
Do you know what else would be good? Is a log of who clicked the unlock icon. I promise it wasn't me. Yes, it was. I know it was you because you were logged in and you clicked the button. That would be really useful.
I'm here for an argument.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Michelle, are you going to use this? Interesting.
Well, you know what I think is really helpful. So I've recently joined the post status team, as I mentioned. And first I was an editor, and then it was like, we're going to give you the keys to everything. You're an admin on the site. Well, nothing is scarier than being an admin on a site like status. And so like being able to block me from, I mean, I know as an admin, I'd probably be able to unlock it, but it would be like a visual cue that maybe you shouldn't touch this one, especially because I'm writing mostly, I'm doing the posts. And so, I see they put different blocks at the bottom and things like that. And it's nice to be able to edit and fix my name if I just spell it or something like that. But on the other hand, it's nice to also know what you should just kind of back away from. It's like is it a cat or is it a skunk, right? Oh, it's a skunk. I'm just going to back away very slowly and leave it be.
A couple of points further about this. It offers a feature which anybody that's been using I'm going to get the wrong finger again. Anybody that's been using a page builder for any length of time, these kind of features have been an integral part of it, and so it feels like it's we're getting a bit of feature parity back, which is quite nice. And the other thing to say is that I'm sure that you could toss a coin in the air depending on what the client would actually want. I would say when I was doing more client websites, 50% of them wanted really to be locked out of anything that they could possibly break. The other 50% wanted absolute access to everything because they felt they'd paid for the ownership of it, and they just wanted to be in there and getting their hands dirty, and they would figure things out and what have you. But a good proportion, like I said, it was probably about half, really did want this kind of control over what they could do, so that they couldn't be responsible for actually clumsily doing something which cost them time and money.
I did a WordCamp talk a few times about how to client-proof your site but give them access at the same time. And the bottom line came to when they required that you give them access because they paid for it, just like Bob Ross's Happy Little Trees and Happy Little Accidents, it were happy little opportunities to make more money off your clients who refuse to stay out of their own website.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm laughing at you, Michelle, but it's so true. I mean, I've got one client where he sent me an email recently, and he shall remain nameless, and he said, my contract says I own my property, and I said, okay, here you go. And then he's made a mess of it, and I said, by the way, haven't you heard the word of out of scope of your maintenance agreement?
Exactly.
It's interesting. Yeah, I can well imagine that there'd be a real clamor for this from the client side for some clients, and being able to implement that and give them the reassurance that you can't muck it up. Don't worry too much. And anything that you are now allowed to muck up is minutes to fix, so don't panic. Just raise a couple of comments before we move on, because it's quite nice to see some new faces. This is Hello, Daniel Cosman. He says, hello from Brazil. First time live listening.
Hey, Daniel.
Thanks for the awesome show, and Paul will be missed. Yes, he will be. Yeah, thank you for dropping in, Daniel. We'd certainly love you to come back and offer any comments that you've got. That would be really nice. And Cameron, on the point of lock-in content down, he says it's a very welcome addition. Until now, you couldn't have a layout that did something as simple as force a page to have a hero at the top. That has not been great and should have been including earlier, in his opinion. So yeah, nice to see that comment. Thanks, Cameron. Okay, we're going to move on, changing subject away from Gutenberg. Just a few kind of community bits and pieces, I suppose. They're not all in big sections, but this is a project that I wanted to mention. This is Topher DeRosier and Kate, who've launched a new podcast project within the WordPress community. It's called WP Podcast, which is just about the best domain he could have possibly wished for. And if, like me, you enjoy listening to WordPress specific content and you like WordPress podcasts, you'd really have to go to Google to discover where they all were, and what the URLs for them were, and the shows and all of that kind of stuff. Once you found them, you're okay. They're locked into your podcast player for life. But until that point, it was a bit difficult. But now Topher and Kate have gone out of their way to make this website, which, as you can see, it's like basically a curated list of all the podcast episodes, and the most recent ones chronologically in time will feature on the front page. That's how it is at the moment. So no matter which podcast network it's coming from, whether it's WP Builds or Women in Podcast or Do the Woo or WP Cafe Talk and all of those great shows, they'll be on this site now, and you can filter, search for different subjects, search the whole lot. And bravo is all I can say, Topher. This is right up my street. So I'm really pleased about this. I'm going to go to Michelle first on this, because look, Michelle's icon appears so many times on this page.
So I was pleasantly included early on in his decision making about this, because he wanted to know, would podcasters be upset? Would they feel like their content was being hijacked? And I said, absolutely not. I mean, the fact that you include my podcast makes me feel very happy. And the fact that people can subscribe to my podcast right through your site and not have to find my site is also something that I think is very good. And so it's great. I mean, I did notice that Hallway Chats comes first, but I guess that's their prerogative. Oh
yeah, well, I think so. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But really nice initiative. And I think you're right, Michelle. Really maybe if we were into some sort of proprietary technology, we'd probably be a bit sore about the fact that our content was being amalgamated in this way. But I think it's great. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
I mean, that's the point of podcasts, is to be heard, right? And so every place we can find a way to be listed and have people, listen to us and subscribe to us is something that's super important. Yeah. I also just gave to you in the chat there, Nathan, I'm running Twitter for Stellar WP. And so I did also, based on what Hallway Chats has done here and what HeroPress has done here, create a Twitter list for under Stellar WP if people want to be able to follow the podcast on Twitter. So I kind of put that together there. Yeah.
Oh, so I'm showing it on the screen now. So this, do you know what, Michelle? What I know about Twitter can be written on a postage stamp. I'm hopeless at it. A Twitter
That's
list.
Why I'm telling you what it is.
Yes, thank you. I need a very basic schoolboy explanation of this. A Twitter list is this you curating a list of things? How does that work?
It is. So this is under Stellar WP. So under Stellar's website, or under Stellar's Twitter account, if you were to hit up their lists, you would see that there are 19 podcasts now that are WordPress type podcasts that are in there. Happy to add more later. You can also tell that I did it very recently. There are 0 followers. So if you click that button that says follow, you'll be the first one. Nathan.
I'm not logged in over here, but I will do. I'll do it over there in a minute.
Yeah. Very good. So what this does is anything that's tweeted out from those different people, those different accounts, will show up here. So you'll see, we've done quite a bit of tweeting today from WP Builds, right? So you'll see that showing up first. If you continue to scroll down, any other podcast that's putting out things, so there's Do the Woo, there's Coffee Talk, and so those are all going to show up there. So if you're interested in what the WordPress Twitter around from podcast is, you follow that list, and then anytime you want to see what's going on, you can go to that list. It also is a good place to find that information, right?
Yeah, this is great. So 2 podcasty things to feature on the podcast. What I
Yeah,
wasn't
so you
expecting,
can't
the WP
you can't
Stellar
listen
list.
to them here.
Yeah. Oh, I
So this
see.
is
Okay. Okay.
this is
Got
just
it.
their
Awesome.
their Twitter activity, and so I put this kind of as an adjacent to what HeroPress is doing.
Do you know if it's possible? Does Twitter not do embedded audio? Like, for example, there is no way to listen to a podcast on Twitter? You'd have to create it as a sort of piece of video content, would you?
Audio content, yeah, you can upload it.
Oh, okay, okay, but it isn't pulled in automatically into Twitter from the feed. No, it's just the Twitter account doesn't do that. Okay, sorry, forgive my ignorance.
There are
we'll teach you. I'll teach you, Nathan.
So Spotify, when you have your, you can share the link on Twitter and it pulls it in. And also, I'm not sure if it does with podcasts, but it does with songs. And the other site who pulls in audio is SoundCloud into Twitter.
Okay.
So if you post those MP3s also on the other sites, you can share it on Twitter.
We use, for WP Builds, I use a service. So this is a bit of a plug for them, I guess. And it's called repurpose.io. And you can tell it that you have a, let's say, YouTube channel or a podcast, and it will scrape your own audio and then create a video out of it and then put it onto your YouTube channel. So it's kind of like an automated service to put different pieces of content into different contexts, and it's really good. I would highly recommend it. It's called repurpose.io, and it's done by Hanny Mora, who's a WordPress plugin developer as well. He's done all sorts in the audio space. Anyway, thank you, Michelle. So that's the WordPress podcast list at Stellar WP. No spaces, no underscores, no nothing. Brilliant. Now, I don't want to close the wrong tab. There we go. But we're back with HeroPress's version, wppodcasts.com. You must be pleased about being included on this as well, Robbie.
Yeah, I sure am. I think any way we can get our content out for podcasters is a big deal. So my take has always been, I don't like podcasts that are Spotify exclusives. I'll tell you that now. They don't make my podcast catcher, which is Pocket Casts, which Automatic owns now. And I just, if it's a Spotify original, I'm probably not going to do it. So from my standpoint, being a podcaster, I like to get my content into people's ears as easy as possible. And that means going to where they are. So this just helps even more.
Yeah.
It really does. It's definitely the sense in how podcast is actually perceived is podcasts on RSS feed, and the more it's distributed, the better it is for the audio to be heard, because the audio itself is always pulling from the feed, which is from your website where you published it. So I think that's brilliant, but it's also the epiphany of the open web, so to speak, and you cannot really harvest that unless you really make the sound your own and kind of publish it under a different name, which, why would you do that? That's why there's so many podcast directories, and I really appreciate this one because it's just so WordPress oriented, and there are quite a few podcast mushrooming that I probably will never see unless I go to the WP podcast site and see that there are new episodes out of something that I didn't know. Yeah.
I'm curious to see if sort of language distribution, maybe there's a German podcast that I've never heard of in the WordPress space, and although I would struggle to consume that in its native German, just fascinated that it's there, and I would never have found that kind of content otherwise. So that's great. Oh, and there is one in German, for example. Oh, great.
Exactly.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah. Cameron back again. He says he refuses to listen to podcasts on Spotify. I actually have recently got a Spotify account. I was using a different service until recently, and for various reasons, it ended up going over to Spotify. And I was really surprised that there were Spotify exclusive things. Mm-hmm. I found that really curious, but I've ditched it. I'm still using Spotify for music, but I'm still over on Pocket Casts, which was my player of choice as well. I'm using that for all podcasts. Nothing goes through Spotify. But I think things like for example, I think it's Joe Rogan. His
Joe
show
Rogan.
is enormously popular, along with some other ones. So I guess from Spotify's point of view, they're creating value by putting these big shows in there. But it's not for me. Not for me. I'm with you.
The interface isn't as good with Spotify as far as I'm concerned for podcast listening. For music, it's okay, but for podcast listening, I don't consider it very good. And so I would agree with Cameron. The other big one that's on Spotify is Michelle Obama's podcast is a Spotify exclusive.
Okay.
I like Michelle, but I'm sorry until they release it. And this is one of the concerns I have, by the way, in the podcast industry, when you got podcast servers buying up podcast houses, like Wonderly was bought by Amazon some time ago. So one of my concerns was, would all the Wonderly podcasts become Amazon exclusives? To give Wonderly and Amazon credit, it hasn't happened that way. You can still get Wonderly podcasts everywhere. So that's the other thing. As the industry shapes out, we got to watch where these deals start to go depending on who owns what.
Yeah.
Very similar to what we're seeing in the WordPress space, except it's happening in the podcast space right now.
Well, I've got an exclusive for you. I have not been approached by either Amazon or Spotify about any of my podcasts.
Big news, yeah. But I think the podcast rejuvenation, so to speak, or renaissance, podcasts were very popular in 2005, 2006.
Yep.
And there was actually exclusive. If your podcast wasn't on iTunes, you wouldn't get any listeners.
Yeah.
And now it's after 10 years or so, it actually changed. Yeah. Now there is a big appreciation from podcasts and mushrooming shows that you need and additional apps to listen to with the mobile world. Yeah. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I remember that I had to build a podcast administration interface for a news site where they had radio hosts doing podcasts for aviation. And it was such an interesting world because there was nothing out there. Yeah, we had to really build it from scratch. And I remember those times. But you had to have the feed for iTunes, otherwise it wouldn't go out.
Okie doke. Let's just round that one off. Just one more quick plug for this new service, wppodcasts.com. Okay, go and check it out if you're into WordPress podcasts. That'd be worth doing. Okay, the next one. I don't know if I'm going to dwell on this one unless any of you three would like me to, but this is a very, very quick one just to say that WP Tavern once again has, under the auspices of Justin Tadlock, produced a piece called a web font API, possibly coming to WordPress. And this is kind of the idea of having a system whereby you can enqueue all of your font scripts natively inside of WordPress. And the idea to me just seems like total common sense. It's we are at the point where it's just a thought, but we've probably all had different ways of doing fonts in the past, whether we download them or we link to Google and so on. So the idea of having some one place that would link to the work that's being done over on the themes side with theme.json seems like a really sensible idea, but I don't really have a lot to say about it. If any of you do, bot in, otherwise I'll move on. Okay. That was good. That was a good period of silence, which indicated perfectly nothing to say here. Okay, perfect. Let's move on to this. This is Ben Townsend. He was actually on the podcast, this show, a little while ago, probably quite a long while ago, actually. And although I don't know anything about Product Hunt, I keep seeing references to it. In fact, almost every service that I sign up to, no matter what it would be, within a couple of weeks, they're telling me that they want me to go over to Product Hunt and click buttons and make them popular. And I never do because I don't really know what Product Hunt is. But my understanding is that if you own something, you can put yourself up on Product Hunt and then people upvote, downvote, write comments and so on, and thereby your reputation is swelled, your numbers of users go up, people get eyeballs on your product and so on. And obviously the opposite could happen, the whole thing could collapse on you, and it's a disaster. But Ben has clearly decided he wants to do this in the WordPress space, and so I guess this is going to be, well, he says WP Hunts is an alternative to Product Hunt, but purely for WordPress products, themes, plugins, hosting, and maybe the odd tool. I'm guessing we could throw blocks in there as well. And I just thought that I would give him a shout out. I don't know if you guys feel this is needed, what with having the repository and what have you, but here it is. What do you reckon?
I think it's pretty cool. I think that the fact that not everything's in the repository, so anything that is premium only is not in the repository. I remember as a new user, people kept telling me this, 10 years ago, oh, you should be using Gravity Forms, and so I kept looking in the repository for Gravity Forms, but Gravity Forms doesn't show up there, right? Because it's just a premium product, and so being able to have premium products that don't have to begin as free products in the repository is probably a good thing, especially if you're talking about add-ons, you're talking about freemium. So you're looking at things like, like GiveWP's newest peer-to-peer that we're going to talk about in a little while. Those kinds of things could show up in Product Hunt that wouldn't necessarily be part of the repository or show up in other areas.
Okay, I get it. Yeah, that's a really good point. Obviously, there's the whole side of the premium marketplace, which Ben can facilitate. It looks like there's two sides to this coin. You've got a developer product owner sign-up form, which is shown on the screen. You can find this on wphunts.com. It's just on their homepage. And with that, obviously, creating a form so that Ben can know that you wish to be listed. And then it looks like there's the other side of the coin, which is the user side, which you would need to create your own account so that you can go in and click on things, I guess, and upvote things and downvote things. Birgit, any thoughts on this?
No, I think it's apart from it's a very good service, and I'm glad that Ben is found something to build. He was always looking for something to do, something for the WordPress product, and he started out with Raffle. He started out with trying to sell copy. But I think this is a very good service that putting both sides together and getting notifications there. And he has a very good take on finding those new products and maybe getting in contact with the owners and getting them up on the site. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I've got to think that if I was a product owner, there's no way you're going to ignore this for now. I mean, let's say that I don't know, maybe it won't be the success that everybody was hoping for, but for now, at least, you're going to definitely go over there because it may well work out and it's perfect. The idea of having this little ecosystem of just WordPressy stuff. I'm constantly looking for WordPress plugins, even though I don't need any. I'm just constantly, oh, that's interesting. That's curious. I wonder if there's and then going out and Googling it. And so if I could then get some sort of measure of how it all, what people think of it and how they value it and how they rate it, I guess Ben's going to have to concern himself quite a lot with making sure that the proof is real. In other words, that we don't get what we get on Amazon, where you read the reviews. It's just, I have no idea if that's true or not. I just feel it's somebody's gaming the system. So Ben, I guess we'll have to be mindful of that. Rob, any thoughts?
No, first of all, to tackle something you just said about gaming reviews, unfortunately, that's the reality of the online world. So we just got to be careful about that. I mean, people game Amazon reviews, people game Google My Business reviews, they game everything. That moving forward, I think it's a really good addition to the WordPress space. It kind of consolidates all the WordPress stuff into one spot. So instead of looking all over the place, and that can be really handy for somebody who's more novice or intermediate to get them to find things, because I find they often have problems finding stuff in our space because they're not used to the multitude of things that we are on the panel. So that's a really good step in the right direction. So
I just remembered Ben was also the one who had this very satirical post about the listicle kind of post. Yes. Yeah, that you get a list of the 20 best plugins to use things, and they're all affiliate links, and you don't know what it was all about, and it's probably about getting more money out of the affiliate links, but the writer probably hasn't used them. And there's quite a few, and that has proliferated in the WordPress blogging space. So I think that's also one concern that he had, that there is no source of truth, so to speak. Let's see if WP Hans is going to turn out that way. But with Ben on the helm and having that keen awareness of that problem, he might be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
So good luck to it.
I remember that piece. That was quite nice, wasn't it? It was quite. He was vociferous. Let's use that word. He was very keen to get his point across, and so seems like the right person to do it if he's fed up of reading those articles. Just a couple of things. What have we got here? Todd E. Jones saying that I don't know what he. Hi, yeah. First of all, hi, Todd. I don't know in what context he's saying, but he used it for the copy, his website copy framework. I wonder what that context would be.
He used Product Hunt.
Oh, I see. Okay, so Todd, curious to your thoughts. Are you going to be getting yourself involved with WP Hunt and filling out that form as an owner of a WordPress product? I'd be fascinated to know if you see value in that. This is Spencer Foreman, who got a mention a little while ago. Although he's a Facebook user, he hasn't clicked on that link. I can see that that's actually Spencer. And Todd's popped back in and said it's Product Hunt. And finally, Marcus is saying he's got to run. Thanks for the show. Bye-bye, Marcus. He's probably already gone.
Bye, Marcus.
There we go. Yeah, bye-bye. See you in a bit. Okay, right, back onto the news. We're closing in on the hour, so we've got about 30 minutes left. What have we got next? Right, this totally took me by surprise. This is GoDaddy. We've all heard of GoDaddy, I'm sure, for their GoDaddy Pro that they have, and also for the hosting that they do. But now it looks like they're leaping into a really different new space. I don't know if this has been talked about a lot elsewhere or if I'm just late to the party, but there's a new service, I think it's new, that they've got called Godaddy Payments. Maya was in the comments earlier, who is with GoDaddy, so maybe if she can just give us some insight into that, it's up to you, Maya. But they're launching, essentially, imagine Stripe or Braintree. It feels very much like that. In other words, you can have the ability to pay online, and by the way, you don't need a website. They go to great pains to say you don't actually need any kind of web presence already. You can just have this terminal online. But you can also have the physical terminal. In other words, you can have the handheld thing. I don't know what that looks like, but it does say here, with online pay links, you can accept online payments in minutes without needing a website. I apologize. It says virtual terminal. So forgive me. I thought it said terminal as in something that you hold. And it says with the virtual terminal, take over the phone or remote payments quickly and securely using your computer, smartphone, and tablet. So it's putting GoDaddy right in the market of, say, a Stripe. Everybody will want to know what the fees are, and it says the pricing for this service is 2.3% plus 30 cents per transaction. I actually don't know where that puts them in terms of the competition for Stripe. My memory is that Stripe's 2.9 or 2.4, or I don't know if anybody...
2.9.
Is it 2.9? Okay.
2.9. Now, can I jump in for a sec, Nathan?
Yeah, of course. Please do.
This sounds more like a Square competitor to me than a direct Stripe competitor. So Square, for those who don't know, is a service that offers a virtual terminal or a dongle that connects via Bluetooth or into the headphone jack to swipe the credit card. And I think this is a little cheaper. So there's two sides to this service. One, I'm not surprised GoDaddy's gone there. Two, I think there will be a pile of people who won't use it because it is GoDaddy. I hate to say that. There's still this connotation in the WordPress community of whether going near GoDaddy stuff is good or bad. So I think you're going to get some split that way. But the other thing to remember is GoDaddy is the world's #1 domain register. So they're going to pull in business that way. So it'll be interesting to see where that shakes out, to be honest with you.
I use Google. I have done in the past. Use Google's domain registrar, and it's quite interesting. When it started, probably 2 or 3 years ago, it was a very simple process, and you went in, you bought a domain, and that really was it. And over the last couple of years, they've just added on all sorts of things. So now they're pushing the Gmail, the Google Workspaces stuff. They're pushing different hosting options and managing Google Docs and all of that kind of stuff, and loads, advanced DNS settings and things like that. And you're at the point of buying it, aren't you? You're at the point of getting a domain, and so all these little things for another $2 here and another $4 there. It's kind of like, oh yeah, all right, I'll just chuck that in. So you feel that if GoDaddy, as you described, Rob, I didn't actually know that fact. If they're one of the biggest, let's say, domain registrar in the United States, the option to just throw in a virtual terminal, and I'm guessing that there's no ongoing fee. They're just taking a cut of whatever it is that you sell online through your terminal or virtual terminal on their web interface. Why not? It's there, right? It's there at the point that you're signing up.
Their virtual terminal is 3.3%.
Got it.
Yeah. So
sure. Yeah, just seen that.
A lot more money on the virtual terminal than they are just on online payments.
Whereas Square's, Michelle, is 2.9%. So, they're all in that ballpark. I mean, what people have to remember is when you take your Visa card or your MasterCard into a merchant, that MasterCard and Visa take a percentage too off that transaction. Sure. So people say, oh, there's none. The reason payment processors do well versus, in my opinion, versus a company going and getting their own terminal through somebody like Chase or the bank is they don't have the high volume of transactions to pay for the terminal rental. So they go to a virtual terminal. That's where they save the money.
I'll be interested to see if they have a lower price for nonprofits like a lot of the other payment processors do.
Yep.
So Stripe is 2.2%, PayPal's 2.2% if you are a registered nonprofit organization.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't recall reading anything along those lines, but maybe it's just something that they've yet to address. It's curious, actually, and thank you, Rob, for pointing out that Stripe's not the best analogy. Square is. I don't really have any familiarity with Square in my own life. I never used it. Apart from as a customer, but it is interesting that those types of terminals from Square and the competition, they really are cleaning up the marketplace. The old cash registers that we used to have and the separate little handheld thing were the way of doing it in the past, but more and more you're seeing something that basically looks like an iPad with a tiny little tray underneath which comes out and the cash goes in, and a little thing that they hold up. And nowadays, especially since the pandemic, the ability to pay with NFC, with the Apple Pay or Google Pay or whatever, just about everybody seems to be doing it that way. And obviously, you got to do your calculations, go and work out if GoDaddy or Square or whatever it may be end up working out better for you. But just curious that they've just jumped in this presumably giant marketplace where the rewards must be enormous.
When I first started working, we all have something to say. Go ahead.
I think where they need to make inroads, Nathan, is somebody now from GoDaddy needs to build a plugin for WooCommerce to integrate their virtual terminal into WooCommerce.
I'm glad you said this.
PayPal's already there, Square's already there, Stripe's already there. So
WooCommerce is already there. They have,
that's right.
They speaking of late, Nathan. WooCommerce has their own WooCommerce payments since May 2020. They came out right in the middle of the pandemic when the wave hit the e-commerce.
Do you know what? I had forgotten that, and we definitely mentioned it at the time. The fact that we haven't talked about it a lot since, I wonder if it's just chugging away very quietly, or if it's a barnstorm of success and it's just not being mentioned a lot. But yeah, we definitely did cover that at the time. But I'm not a heavy WooCommerce user. In fact, barely at all. So it's not something that ever crops onto my radar. But you've got to feel that this is a huge marketplace, and if you can take 2.x% of everybody's transactions. Oh, so much. Okay,
Yeah.
I think we've exhausted that one. Let's move on. This is Michelle. This is Michelle's thing. We're going to talk about GiveWP. I feel that, like we mentioned this before, but I don't feel that we did it justice. So another round. Let's do it properly.
Sure.
This is announcing the GiveWP peer-to-peer fundraising suite. Tell us all about it.
So we have this peer-to-peer fundraising suite now. I'm going to send you another link so you can see it in action, what it looks like. But what this means is that if you have an organization that is fundraising and you want people to be able to fundraise on your behalf, they can now spin up a fundraising group or even just individual form and raise money for you. So for example, for Big Orange Heart, we did a kind of a self-grown version of this at the last WordFest based on some other things that that Give had put out in the past on how you can kind of create this for yourself. But it was very clunky and it was just creating a form. If you click over to the link I just sent you.
Yeah, 1 second. It's
yep.
Just
you'll be able to see that the interface is so beautiful.
It is.
I have got audio echoing in my head. 1 second. Let me just close that. There we go. I found it. Another tab had mysteriously opened itself, and it was me talking, but about 4 seconds behind. So that was a bit annoying. Right. Okay. Here we go. I found the link. Is it this chili cook-off? Is that the one we mean?
It is. So Amanda created that because we have actually had people in the past wonder how they could do chili cook-offs. So if you scroll down this, so let's say that you were doing this giant chili cook-off and you want people to be able to have teams. You can see that people have donated. So we've put the recent donations. There's a top donors there. If you scroll down, you can see the different teams that have forms within that. So Ronan, Amanda, if you scroll down once, that's not my picture, but that is my old name. So there is she's prettier, but that's okay. So it's the idea is that you can have people create these forms and fundraise for you, for your organization. And so it's really great, right? So you think about the fact that maybe you're having a 5K and you want people to be able to fundraise because they're running in your 5K and not have to have everybody channel in through the same donation form. You can see person by person and team by team how much has been raised. So this has been something that's been a want by our customers for a very long time. It is it's a behemoth of a development behemoth, if you will. It was a very large undertaking. There's a lot of code behind this. A lot of people, a lot of hours that have gone into this, and for us to be able to release it, it was released last week, and it's doing very well. People are very excited about it.
Oh, nice. I was just thinking of, in my life, the example that springs to mind for me would be our primary school, the school that my children went to, where, they've got this one overall goal of raising money for the school to provide X, Y, and Z. And then they've got like 200 little sponsorship forms all going out. So all the children get one, and they're all doing something completely different. They make up what it is that they're going to do in order to raise money for the school, and then it all goes back into the pot, and you see the total going up on the thermometer and what have you. That kind of an example where you're trying to crowdsource lots and lots of donations, but there's one overall goal. Yeah, that's lovely. That's really nice.
Yeah, so we're pretty excited about it, and it seems to be people are enjoying it and being able to implement it very quickly, which is nice.
If you want to find out more about that, the blog post is called Announcing the GiveWP Peer-to-Peer Fundraising Suite. It was written by Devin Walker, and it came out on September the 23rd, so that should get you where you need to go. Okay. Thank you, Michelle. That was great.
Yeah, sure. I see Todd has some questions. Todd, I'll follow up with you later.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. So I might as well just raise them now in case it resonates with anybody else. I have a site where I would want to do that for others, Michelle. Can I do that? Can he do that?
He can do that. So the raising on behalf of others is always got some extra layers in it. So you either have to be able to connect directly to their payment processor, so Stripe or PayPal, for example, or you have to collect the money yourself and then donate it to that third party on their behalf, in which case all of the money that's raised through you, if you are not a 501c3, is not actually going to be tax deductible, because only when somebody is making a donation directly to the nonprofit organization is that money tax deductible. Okay.
And so I'm trying to put the link in.
Yeah, Todd. And if I understand this right, this is for organizations to put on their website and then give out the link, and then people who want to fundraise for that organization sign up on their site and then get a link to the fundraise that they can then share with Facebook or Instagram or whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not.
Although I'm sure that there will be more use cases to it. That's the primary use case. I know that people will come up with a million different other ways to use it, which I think is wonderful. And I will probably start to think about some of those to write articles about myself.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that the GiveWP is doing that, because 2 years ago there was only one product who was actually making that available for a WordPress nonprofit site. And that was, I think the name was Charitable, and only with an additional layer on that. And it was quite complicated. So I really admire that you went that route and put it right in there with the GiveWP. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, we didn't rush it, so we wanted it to be perfect right out the gate. Yeah.
Very nice.
I need to find out the pricing.
I can't see that right away, to be honest. But go.
It's right on our website.
Okay. There we go. I'm going to scroll. I'm going to keep scrolling. It's not on that piece though, but
no, it's
it'll be on the website.
Pages,
Go and have a look. I've put the link in the. I've put the link. Sorry, Birgit. I've put the link in the chat. I apologise if you can't see it, but I've tried to put it where I can, and I think you should be able to get that link. The other one, Maya just popped in and said it is lower. I presume Maya's from GoDaddy, and I presume she's maybe listening a few minutes behind where we've got to. So that was probably an answer to some question that we had a little while ago. Maya, if you want to reach out and let me know what it is that was concerning, I will try to make it whole. Okay, right. Moving on very quickly. We are really pressed for time, and there's some at the end that I just absolutely have to do. So I'm just going to do this one and a couple of other shout outs for some nice shiny websites. And this one is over on Get Ellipsis. This is Alex Denning, who's written a piece this week which seemed to resonate with quite a few people. It's a very long piece. He's obviously put a lot of time into this one, and he's analysing how it is that Awesome Motive, who last week acquired Sandhills Development, so Easy Digital Downloads, Affiliate WP, and a whole bunch of other stuff. How it is that they've got this really effective marketing system. Alex himself is really into figuring out how WordPress plugins market themselves and so on. And all I can say really is read this piece. It's fascinating, and it kind of boils down to the fact that they've got this. They've now got so much momentum on all their different properties, and I'll probably just show a quick graph. I'm sure you've heard of these properties before. They've got WP Beginner, they've got WP Forms, Opt-in Monster, Monster Insights, Blog Tyrant, Seed Prod, and now obviously from this moment on anything to do with EDD and Affiliate WP and so on. And just how they reflect the marketing back in. So if they put something on WP Beginner, which is a huge website with, I think he said something like 2 million visitors a month or something along those lines, just massive, how they can cross promote. And now the other properties they've got, so WP Forms and so on, they're also big enough now that they've been doing the SEO content stuff for so long that their audiences themselves are well worth investing time into content creation with. And so they then cross promote back. So he's saying that Easy Digital Downloads and all of those things being sold into the Awesome Motive family instantly make anything to do with Awesome Motive bigger and more effective as a marketing machine. Honestly, Alex, I'm sorry I've really butchered and minimalized what it was that you were saying. Heaps of graphs and data and statistics to back up what you're saying, but it was a really fascinating piece. I don't know that any of us are going to get grips with that one, but I will open it up in case anybody wanted to jump in.
Well, I will say that having been acquired by Liquid Web as GiveWP and under the Stellar brand, we just added LearnDash to our family of brands, and we're up to I think 7 different plugins now. It's interesting to see what he's done successfully, so that perhaps we can follow the lead and start to capitalize on some of that. What's interesting too is that the majority of our products have the previous owners are now the GMs of those products as well. So the success that began could continue. And now we have this really great hive mind of people who have grown wonderful products. So we're still in our infancy. We've just been accumulating plugins a lot this year over the last 12 months. And so looking forward to seeing how we can grow that under Stellar WP as well.
It's curious that, and again, Alex makes the point that if you were to look at any one of these products, you wouldn't really know that they were owned by this larger entity because they've got nice individual branding. The whole thing just looks different website, different branding, different iconography, the whole lot. But it's only upon further inspection that you realize that actually this is all under one brand. And so I'm curious, do you know, Michelle, is that the route that Stellar WP are hoping to go with as well, or are they hoping to have Stellar WP as the big thing?
We wouldn't have created Stellar WP if we had expected that we were not going to show the fact that these are interrelated products, and then also be working on ways that our products can actually work together. So at Give WP, people are always asking us, well, how can I make this into events? And now we have the event calendar, and so looking at ways that we can work with our sister brands to be able to accomplish some of those things.
If you're watching the show, the reason I keep waving is because I have a fly, and if I had to award it a mark out of 10 for peskiness, this fly is totally going to get like 15 out of 10. It's the most pesky fly ever. It's just super pesky. It just keeps coming and just dive bombing me and then clear. You probably can't even see it. It's such a tiny little speck, but it's so anyway, apologies for the waving.
I was expecting you to say that this fly goes to 11.
Yeah, it's more than that. This has got peskiness coming out of its legs. I don't know what flies have. Anyway, there we go. A lovely piece. Thanks, Alex, for committing so much time into that this week. It's really great. Couple of shout outs, if that's all right. Maybe there's commentary about this, maybe there's not. 2 web properties that we've all heard of before. Well, certainly the Castos one I have, and Gravity Forms I'm sure we all have. This is just nice new website designs. This is the nice new Gravity Forms website, which I gotta say, I like it. This is right up my street. Sorry if you're listening to this on the audio, but it's really lovely. It's just a really nice design. I can't quite put my fingers on it. I don't even have the vocabulary to express why I like it, but bravo, guys. Just lovely, lovely website. And the other one that I want to point to is Castos, who is the hosting platform that we use over at WP Builds to host our audio file. They've got a nice WordPress plugin. Craig Hewitt
Rob uses it too, right?
Do you know what? I think most people do use it in the WordPress space. What about you, Rob?
I certainly do. I moved over to Castos a couple of weeks ago. Their web design is amazing, and their support is probably the best in the business by far.
Yeah, they really did need a bit of a refresh. The old site definitely looked as if it needed a bit of a refresh. And props to Mike Oliver, who is a designer who's actually also on the Page Builder Summit this year. He's built this with Generate Press, Generate Blocks, which is right up his street. And it's really, really nice little site. He's got material that he puts out on YouTube regularly to show you how you can build stuff pretty quickly and easily inside the block editor with the 4 plugins which come with 4 blocks which come with Generate Blocks. And it really is one of the sites, like I said earlier, that I was trying out this week. I used Generate Blocks and it was just so straightforward.
Their most recent blog post is mine. I wrote for them.
Ew! Come on, let's have a look. Where are we? Where's the blog? Show
Under
me the blog.
resources.
Okay.
Over resources.
Our blog.
There to the left.
Da, da, da.
Yep. Happy International Podcast Day. That's
you. That's cool. Look at that. Yeah. That was a thing, wasn't it, this week? Happy International Day. Yeah. I confess, I kind of there was things going on that I needed to attend to on that day, and it never really got my attention. But anyway, beautiful new site. Congratulations to the team.
Lovely.
Both at Gravity Forms and Castos. Well done. Great. Okay, I'm going to miss that one, but I am going to go to this one because Birgit mentioned this. This is over on WordPress.org. It's a new, well, maybe not new, I apologize. It's a plugin by Marcus Kazmierkatz. It's not right. I'm so sorry. Kazmierczak. I'm going to say that. I'm sorry, Marcus, for butchering your name. It's called templates. And Birgit, why have you chosen to surface this on the show?
Well, block patterns are really big now in the WordPress space, and there's a site with block patterns that you can get on the repository, and the themes are putting plenty of block patterns in their new block-based themes. But the person who's not gonna be able to do block-based block patterns is the user, and this plugin fills that gap. You can create your designs with a block editor in the editor and save that as a block pattern, and then reuse it over and over again. It's not so much a reusable block. It's more like the reusable block is for content. So when you change content in one block, it's propagated over the whole website. And block pattern is that you have a fully designed section of your website that has an image, a headline, a different design. And you don't want to recreate it over and over again because it takes maybe a half an hour to create, but then you can store it and then reuse it as block pattern. And as a user, so this plugin is relatively lightweight. He also has, Marcus has on his blog, mkaz.blog, an article that says using block patterns as content templates, and that's what the plugin is helping you to do. And it's surprisingly lightweight. It speeds up site building considerably, and hopefully the features. I'm really hoping that the features make it into the core editor sooner or later, probably later, because it's kind of an add-on. But there are a few things that I miss. Is that the patterns show up in the inserter.
Yep.
And then that's a preview in the inserter, and that I can make modification and save that as. But it's a great way for a user or a site owner that doesn't have any coding knowledge to make their own patterns.
So this is, I'll give you the full URL. It's wordpress.org/plugins/templates, which is TEMPLETS. You'll know that you stumbled on the right place because there's a little icon. It's black. It looks like a bunch of rectangles sort of all jiggled together to make a square. And it says, templates adds a new custom post type that allows for creating block patterns. Any new template post will be registered as a block pattern, usable in the block editor. Using templates provides an easy way for authors and content creators to create patterns. Yeah, nice. It's still confusing, I think, to most people what reusable blocks. Oh, pesky, just go away. Super pesky. Sorry, that was me talking to the fly. It
wasn't me, right?
No, really. It's so pesky. It's right there, right in front of my face. And I've completely lost my train of thought now. Over to you, anybody.
You were saying that it's quite confusing, the difference between reusable blocks and block patterns.
I thank you. That was it.
Yeah.
I'm going to catch this.
There was so long, there was only reusable block, and reusable block also got a new interface and all that until block patterns came along. And I think that was part of the confusion, because people created a workaround about reusable blocks, and then they stored it as reusable blocks, and they have a button, or a reusable block has a button where you can say convert to regular blocks. So you get it out of that content updating mechanism when you change it. So you could use it as template. And that's what was a crutch that a lot of people used. And that's why block patterns now is it so much easier, but it brings you that confusion back, kind of thing.
Thank you, Birgit. Okay, so I think with 5 minutes to go.
I'm just laughing.
Sorry, I should say I've put a lovely comment on the show. It says the ghost of Paul Lacey is haunting Nathan in the form of a fly. Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna get back Paul Paul Lacey for that. That's
You're
brilliant. I
gonna
love
get
that. Yeah. Also, very nice. Todd makes a comment that Mike Oliver, we were obviously looking at the Castos redesign. Mike Oliver is the man. Turned his video in last night. He said, "Oh, that's for the Page Builder Summit." Yeah, I haven't spied that yet, but great. I will check that out. Oh, yes, I did see the Twitter thread that you had with him. That was lovely. Right, a couple of things just before we begin. The first one is another Birgit one. She wants to give a shout out for an upcoming webinar, Gutenberg Times live Q&A. Now, it's a Zoom link that you've got to get to, but because the Zoom link is horrific, full of just jumbled characters and numbers and what have you, I've created a much more straightforward link. It's the Gutenberg live Q&A from classic themes to block-based themes, it's called. And if you go to bit.ly, so bit.ly/block-based-themes, block-based-themes, then you should be able to get it. What's this event, Birgit?
Well, I invited Carolina Niemark, Anders Noren, and Ellen Bauer to this show because I know they just published block-based themes, so themes that integrate already with the full-site editing features. And they will talk about the journey that they made, what's difference between doing it in classic themes versus building a block-based theme. It's going to be quite interesting because they have, all three of them, followed the full-site editing for the last 2 years and always had some comments back, but they are not automatic people. They have, Ellen Bauer has a very successful theme studio, Elma Studio in New Zealand. Anders Noren was the builder of the default theme 2020 and has come out with Tove. And then Carolina Niemark has been on the team for the 2021 theme, and she also converted that into a block-based theme called TT1 Block.
Yes.
And that's kind of what a lot of people use, but you can also use Aino, A-I-N-O, by Ellen Bauer and her team. So it's going to be a great conversation, and we have a few seats left. So I thought I mentioned it here in the show. And it's going to be on this Thursday at noon Eastern, 1600 UTC. And we will stream it live to YouTube. So if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you would get a notification as soon as we go live. So that's another way to get in there and get around this pesky Zoom thing. You could also, and if you didn't get the link, you could just go to the GutenbergTimes.com and you see it on the front page on the left-hand side, above the fold, so to speak.
I wonder if you too will be inundated with pesky flies.
Right.
I think from this moment on, any live that doesn't have a pesky fly, frankly, isn't living up to the promise. It's if it hasn't got pesky flies, it's not worth watching. Here we go. So thank you for that. So just to recap.
Thank you for letting me.
Yeah, of course. 7th of October, so Thursday, noon Eastern time. And the link is on the screen. It's bit.ly.com/ no, it isn't. It's bit.ly/block-based-themes. Okay. With minutes to spare, possibly even just a minute. Oh, no. Now I can't make that thing go away. There. Yay. Success. Right. Couple of things that I want to say just totally out of nothing. The first one is, this is so funny. There's a guy, I don't even know where the guy is, but there's a guy somewhere, I believe it's a guy, who has put a hamster in a box. His hamster is called Mr. Gox. And Mr. Gox, being a hamster, loves to sort of run around and go in his wheel and occasionally go through the little tunnels which have been put into the little box. The interesting thing about this particular little box is that it's linked up to do actual trading on the stock market. And so, for example, if there's a thing called the intention wheel, and 30 stocks have been linked to where he ends up on the wheel. So if he runs around for a certain amount of time, there are 30 segments to it. And depending on which segment is at the bottom, when the little hamster hops out, that's the stock that's in question from that moment on. And then there's 2 little tunnels. And if the hamster then chooses to go through one tunnel, that says sell. that stock. And if the hamster runs through the other cell to the other one, it's buy that stock. Turns out this hamster is brilliant. This hamster is outperforming everything. It's outperforming Bitcoin. It's outperforming the Nasdaq, the S&P 500, Berkshire, and the bank base rates. But it's just, you can't make it up. Which just says, well, do these people really know what they're doing? I just thought that was such a lovely piece. Mr. Gox, the famous trading hamster inside of his Gox box. Go and have a look at the piece. I'll link. That's lovely.
I'm gonna let my cat take over my Twitter account and see what happens.
Yeah. But it speaks, doesn't it?
Speak stock in this one.
Yeah. Sort of, to my mind, it just speaks to the sort of fairly random nature of trading. But obviously, it's not if you really, really, really know what you're doing. But I just thought that was lovely. And yeah, thumbs up. I want a Mr. Gox in a with a Gox.
There must be a Gox fund somewhere.
Yeah, I love it. The other one I wanted to point to, only came to me just moments before the show went live, and so I just thought this was so wonderful. I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's a video from 1900, so 121 years ago. It's been made into color and it's been made into 4K. I don't know what voodoo was used to make that happen, but it's of Paris. So this is 120 years ago, and it just hit me really hard. Like, wow, only 120 years ago, and look how life has changed. Not only does nobody dress in this way, but the streets are empty. Yeah, right. The streets are empty and nobody's staring at their phones. It's just how technology has changed our lives in the last 120 years. The streets are fuller. We're all interested in our mobile technology. Can't really speak to why it's going in the show, but I just thought that was lovely. Did any of you get to see it before you came on?
No, I didn't.
Yet, no.
No, I didn't. It reminded me of another little movie that I saw. It was probably the same AI that colored it or made it. It was a snow fight on the street where somebody bicycled through and got all the snowballs and was taken off the bike. But it was kind of really fun to watch.
There's just this lovely bit where they've obviously got the camera on the Eiffel Tower lift, and they go up in the Eiffel Tower, and you can see Paris sort of stretching away into the distance. And what's so remarkable is there's just no traffic. There's just literally 2 or 3 little, obviously brand new cars, because that would have been an amazingly new invention, but mainly just a collection of horses and carts. And I'm not trying to make out that life was better back then or anything like that, because I believe it's probably better now, but it's certainly different. And I just thought that was fascinating. And the last one on today's show is courtesy of Rob Cairns. You wanted to tell us about spacecraft swooping close to Mercury. Yeah. Even.
I just think this is really cool. Space is kind of back in the news with all this space fights and the people, and I think this is even more compelling to show you what Mercury looks like. So I'm just an old time love space, so I thought I'd share it. That's all.
Look at that.
Yeah,
isn't that cool?
Love it. Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid sitting in bed with Carl Sagan's Cosmos book, and I remember for the first time seeing that picture from Viking on Mars. And there was a picture, and it was a pretty decent picture, but it was just a bunch of rubble and rocks with a sort of red hue to it. And I remember just thinking, that's a lie. There's no way anybody's got a camera on Mars. No way. That looks way too much like Earth. And then suddenly thinking, whoa, it is like Earth. It's got rocks just like we have. It's not some sort of weird thing out there. It's just like us, but, with the absence of life and oxygen. But this is great. Thank you for sharing that one. Look at that, swooping past. I didn't even realize they'd got all the craters named. Isn't that extraordinary?
Yeah, it is.
Named all the craters, yeah. Anyway, there we go. Nothing to do with WordPress. We always end on some completely irrelevant, non-WordPressy stuff. There we go. We're done. That's the episode for this week. I would like to thank Michelle Frechette, who you'll be... fly, pesky fly, be gone. I would like to... everybody wave. I would like to thank Michelle. You'll be seeing more of her as the weeks go on. I'm really pleased to have her on as a co-host.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. Rob, We'd love to have you back on to explain why you're wearing a hat with Pirelli written on it. That would be good, obviously into your tyres. And Birgit, obviously, would love to have you on just because you talk such common sense about Gutenberg and all of those kind of things. And it's great to have you on. Yeah, appreciate it. Now, what I need you to do, if you're willing, can we all do the wave? You don't have to do the wave. It's just really for the thumbnail art at the end. There we go. Got it. That'll do nicely. I'm going to hang it up and say thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week. Can't remember who the guests are, but it'll be somebody entertaining. Thanks so much
Thank you
for joining us.
Bye.
Take it easy.
Thank you.